Today we are doing My First Love, right? I could start singing right now, like a real love song, but I'm not because I don't have that kind of a great of a voice, even though you may project that way. But we are doing St. Louis ribs. What is up, gang? Sonnys Barbecue head pitmaster Shannon Snell back with another Tales from the Pit. Today we are doing St. Louis ribs. It was the very first meat that I learned how to cook. It's one of the ones that, if you will, in the barbecue world, my terms, that I learned how to perfect, even though that's never really a thing. And I wanted to show it to you guys here today. Technically, it's a competition version of ribs, right? But it's got like a nice little citrus kick onto it. So let's get started. So first of all, you see here is a big slab of spare ribs. All right, you'll see these at the grocery store. You'll see them kind of untrimmed like this, where you see them kind of in a big slab. This shouldn't be as intimidating as you think they are, right? First of all, it's gonna save you a little bit of money. I'm gonna show you how to trim them, because when you get them, the butcher technically charges you for cutting them down. And he takes all the extra meat and takes it home for himself. So we don't want the butcher taking your proteins. We want you paying premium price for all the meat that you have here. So I'm gonna show you how to cut them down, how to trim them up a little bit. And then we're gonna make our sauce and our rub as we normally do. And we're gonna get them on a smoker. So first of all, just turn them over, right? Now, these are untrimmed. A lot of times if you get the St. Louis ribs, or if you get spare ribs that are cut into St. Louis box style, a lot of this stuff is trimmed off. A lot of stuff is gone. It's not even here. And that's cool, right? But let me teach you how to trim them off. Let me teach you this method, and you'll learn something new along the way, and you'll save some money. Not to mention, you'll have some rib tips that you can have to stick in a crock pot or stick in your smoker to smoke along with your ribs. First of all, you need to trim these down. You need to box these down. The one thing you can't do is stick these on and expect them to cook all the way evenly through. You see this side is really kind of tapered off and it gets really thin. You can't expect this side to get done at the same time as this side. That's just not gonna happen. No matter how many times you flip them in the smoker, how many times you move them around, they just won't get done at the same time. So you have to be able to have them cook evenly. And that's the reason why people in the past have done St. Louis style ribs, is because it makes them even. It's even cooking across the entire rack of ribs. So how do you make them even, you say? Just find the kind of middle bone, the longest bone here, which is probably around the third or fourth bone, and stick your finger at the end, at the very bottom of it. You'll feel kind of like some cartilage down here, right? And you're just gonna stick your knife, which I have right here. You're gonna stick that knife right through it, and you're just gonna kind of go straight across. You're just gonna kind of run it almost all the way straight through, where you're gonna square these ribs off. I'm kind of making myself kind of a line right here, if you will. That's a sharp knife, super important. Have a sharp knife when you're doing this, because a dull knife, you can get into some bone, your hand can move around a little bit, you cut yourself, not a really good feeling there. But just kind of make yourself a line, and you can readjust your cut a couple of times, because you can just to box it up. But I know where my bones are, my longest bones are on this side, so I'm just gonna kind of go right down through them. You see that? That's all that cartilage right there. Cut that off. That's all that cartilage right there. All that cartilage that comes off. You're wondering what that cartilage is good for. These are like rib tips, right? It's extra part of the rib cage of that hog. Doesn't really cook well evenly, but also makes them really good eating. Don't throw this away. You can cut these up, throw them in your smoker. You can throw them in a crock pot. It's some good stuff. So, but this is extra. This is what you pay for in the store. So make sure you keep it. All right. So next up, we're gonna kind of square this up a little bit more. You can see it's still a little bit uneven. This end still needs to come off a little bit. Now, I always advise that you start at this end and you kind of cut down a little bit. You just cut it all the way down, adjust as many cuts as you necessarily need to. But you don't have to make just one cut, but just make sure it's as even and as square as possible. And you can feel yourself going through that cartilage. It should be very easy. You shouldn't have to kind of, put a bunch of weight on or anything like that. One hand should be able to do it. If you do, readjust your cut. If you're getting in the bone, it gets a little bit weird. It gets a little bit scary, because that bone could lodge itself in there. You cook it, somebody bites into it. It's kind of jagged. It's not really good. So just readjust your cut as many times as you need to. All right, so we're gonna stay on the back here. We don't need to do anything. We don't have to flip it over just yet. You've probably seen in our previous baby back rib video that we have to remove the membrane off the back. The same thing is existent with these St. Louis ribs right here. You have to remove the membrane off the back. I'm gonna take like a little piece of paper towel right here. You don't need a spoon. even though that can get the job done, or like a butter knife, that can get the job done as well. This is really simple, really easy, and anybody can do it. Just take the rib, and it's still laying on the table, but you want to remove this entire membrane off the back. That membrane doesn't offer up anything extra. It's basically a paper thin membrane that's really tough, that doesn't add any extra flavor. Get rid of it. I'm gonna go right between the second and the third bone here. Wedge my fingers underneath. It's like I did that before. Get that out of here. Okay, cool. So now we're off the back. Now we can kind of trim off the rest of this. You see some of this skirt meat here. This is good eating too. Don't throw this away. You throw this, hey, listen, you go to home and your grandpa's house, you say, hey, grandpa, I listen how to cook ribs, or grandma, listen, I learned how to cook ribs. You end up throwing this away, and they end up saying, well, I learned it from Pitmaster Shannon. I'm gonna deny you. Deny you, deny it. Say you never watched this video. Matter of fact, this video will be gone from your library, so don't even worry about that. So we're just gonna take it and run the knife down the back, clean off this extra meat here. This is good meat. Once again, it's not you don't throw it away. You can stick it in your smoker, but once again, this is not gonna add anything extra to this slab of ribs. You want these things to cook as evenly as possible. That means sitting on the smoker as evenly as possible. So this can't be sitting on top of this when it's flipped over. Get rid of it, put it to the side, cook it for a later day. All right, here we are, but we're still on the back. All right, we're still got a couple things left to do. So you want to square these up as much as possible. I kind of think about cooking these at home how I would in a competition, only not cutting off as much. If you ever cook competition cooking, your best bones, your best ribs are going to come from this section right here, because they're the straightest. They're the ones that probably make the most sense when the judge bites into them. But if you're cooking at home, this is all good stuff too. You're not throwing this away. So you're going to keep that. But there's going to be some stuff here that doesn't cook as well. All right, this is very thin, floppy meat on the end of this slab of ribs. You're going to cut this off. You're going to get rid of this. You're just going to take it a little bit. And you notice there's really no bones in this. All right, as the slab goes down, your last bone is right here. All right, there's nothing in this. Okay, keep it. Cook it at another day. You don't really need to cook it with this slab here. Everything here looks good. Now there's some extra fat on the back of here. You may see this. I've seen people go through and trim this off and take this off. Don't do that. You can kind of rub your fingers over top of it, and it's almost soft. All right, this is going to be fat that renders down, that feels good. That's going to cook down in a high temperature smoker. So you don't have to worry about that. Not to mention the bone is right here. This is a little bit of added protection. All right, so don't cut all the fat off the back and all that other stuff. Not necessary. You can still have great ribs without having to do that. It's just going to add extra flavor and a little bit more protection. All right, I flipped these over, and these ribs look good. All right, you can add a little bit more trimming. You can do a little bit more to kind of make sure they're more squared up. But I like the way that they look right now. It's always good to go on the front side to make sure that there's no pockets of fat. There's nothing here that doesn't look appetizing. Just remember, when you cover it with rub and you stick it in your smoker, that's how it's going to look coming out. It's not like it's going to magically change over time. So just make sure that how it looks when it goes into the smoker is how it looks when it comes. It's how it's going to look when it comes out. All right. So I guess the next obvious step is we got to build a rub. Okay. I have my bowl right here, and I'm going to build very much a base rub. This is a rub that I go to for a lot of chicken, pork items, and it's a great rub. It's a very universal rub, but it's one that really has a lot of layers of flavor and a lot of depth of flavor. Flavors. I will start off with sugar. All right, just white granulated sugar works well. You can do brown sugar, that's okay. But I like white granulated for this particular recipe. I'll go a little bit of kosher salt. Some of that 18 mesh black pepper, really thick cut black pepper. It has a little bit of spiciness without going over the top. I'm gonna add more stuff here in the end that brings up that flavor, that pepper kick a little bit. But that 18 mesh is really good stuff. Or you can go thick cracked black pepper or restaurant quality. They all kind of remain in that same area. I have a little smoked paprika, which is great. Cayenne. You guys know I love cayenne. It's my thing. You can omit this, but you should always put this in, because the sugar does cancel it out a little bit, so it's good to put that in there. I got a little chili powder as well. Chili powder is great. It looks good for the appearance. Plus, it brings out some of the depth, some of that flavor, and those other ingredients. And the last two are pretty universal, from onion powder and some garlic powder. That's it. That's the rub. That's a very much base rub. You'll find that in a lot of pork rubs that have a lot of these same ingredients. You'll find some with that have a little bit of added cinnamon, some cloves, some things that aren't as prevalent in other rubs that kind of throw them off a little bit. But this is my base one, and I've always had good results with it. Whisk it. Okay, so that you know, I normally would put a binder on this. My binder being oil, mustard, something else that's gonna help this rub stick, but these are higher quality ribs. These are primes. So that means that they have a little bit more fat content. They melt down a little bit more, so that fat is gonna help them stick a lot more. I always suggest that the lower quality of your ribs, the more chances are that you need a binder. You can go without a binder if you've never used one before. You're like, hey, that's not me, that's fine. I'm not gonna use one today, just to show you that the product can still be great without a binder, and your rub can still stick to the rub can still stick to your protein. Hand, you can do a shaker. I'm gonna do my hand just because I've gotten used to doing it, but a shaker helps you with accuracy and making sure the entire rib gets covered. But if you're out, if you don't have one, it's okay. Go ahead and use your hand. A third of this rub goes on the back of this rib. We're gonna press this in. We're not gonna rub it in. And the majority of this will go on the front side of this rib. Just cover it up. Press that rub in. Remember, all right, don't rub this rub in. This is important, all right? If I rub this rub in, I'm just gonna take one little section. All right, rule 1 of my barbecue Bible. All right, a rub is not a rub. You're like, hey, that doesn't make sense. Well, let me show you. If you take this rub in an area where you're starting to rub it, look what happens, right? It creates these little pockets, these little clumps of seasoning, right? That's not good, because if somebody takes a bite of that area, they may not get the full experience of something that you may have put into your seasoning. So make sure that you press this seasoning in. Press it in, press it in, press it in, press it in. Like so. Okay, we're gonna let these sit here for about 10 minutes. We're gonna let some of this rub soak in, some of that moisture extract out. Let's go get our smoker prepped up, and we'll be back here to show you what the sauce looks like. See you in a second. All right, so smoker's heated up to 275 degrees. I'm using hickory pellets for my pellet smoker here. I suggest for this recipe, hickory wood is good, hickory pellets, just really great. Hickory is a great flavor, great smoke for this kind of meat and this kind of rub and these ribs. So I'm gonna put these on the smoker, close them up, and it's gonna be a solid 90 minutes before I look at these ribs again to check for the rub, our rub test. So I'll put these on, give it a smoke nap, and we'll be back. And as a pro tip, I bunch these ribs up because I'm gonna wanna see between the bones. You can see some of that meat kind of shooting up here. That's really important because as they cook, they're gonna come out exactly how you put them into the smoker. So I want them bunched up. I want that meat in the middle showing, so when I cut them, it's an easy cut for me. We're back. Ribs on the smoker. They're smoking. I feel really good about them. That rub on it looked pretty phenomenal. So got them squared up, looking really nice. So we can check on those in about 90 minutes. But in the meantime, let's create our sauce, our orange glazed citrus sauce, a little bit of spiciness to it. First off, I have some Sonnys sizzling sauce. Good sauce. My favorite. It's right in the middle of the road. It's got a little bit of spiciness behind it, but it also has that sweetness that I really love. So I'm just gonna add that to my cast iron skillet. You're probably thinking, why are you adding this to a cast iron skillet? I'll explain that in just a second once we get all of our ingredients added. So that goes in. All right, we're gonna throw in a little bit of brown sugar. We have some orange juice right here. We talk about the orange glaze and where that comes from. What better than some kind of just some natural orange juice? Now you could use some sour stuff because you have a lot of sugar in here, but I figured you don't have to open up a new can or throw out something. You have orange juice available, which you should in your refrigerator. Good for you, vitamin C, good for your body, right? Healthy. You can just add that to your sauce. One of my favorite ingredients that is sometimes not used enough, apple cider vinegar, right? It goes in my coleslaw dressing. It goes in a lot of the dressings that I use. It's got that little bitterness, that little kick of flavor I just absolutely love. And it brings out, it kind of balances the sugars, right? You don't want a sauce that's too sweet. You don't want one that doesn't have any kind of balance to it. This apple cider vinegar brings a lot of balance. Balance. Mr. Miyagi, balance, right? Balance. All right, and honey. Honey's the last thing. We're adding some more sweetness to it. So this is a sweeter sauce, right? You're here for a good time, not a long time. So you're gonna add this honey to the sauce. It's gonna thicken it up a little bit. Get it all out. All right, make sure you have a spatula. A friend back in the day used to call us $1 million saver. That means over the course of your lifetime, if you scrape everything out of every condiment you use with a spatula, you'll save $1 million. I don't believe it, but it is what it is. All right, let's mix this up. This nice and incorporated. Now the cool thing about this sauce is, or any sauce that you do, is that the longer you let it sit or simmer, the better it gets, right? This one has a lot of sugars in it, a lot of stuff that we want to break down. So as sugars get hotter, they start to caramelize. So we want some of these sugars to start to caramelize. We want some of this orange juice and the sugars in it, and in the honey, and even in the sizzling sauce to break down a little bit. So we're gonna take this cast iron skillet, which is heat safe, and stick it on our smoker. So we're gonna stick this on. We're gonna let this simmer for probably about 20, 25 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. You gotta stir it maybe every 5-10 minutes. That's super important. Now, once again, if you're looking at it ain't cooking, so when your ribs are on, you gotta open it, stir it real quick, and close it back up. But make sure it starts to simmer because you want those sugars to break down. All right, so we're gonna get this sauce in the smoker. Just remember, it's gonna simmer because we wanna break those sugars down. It's important to let it simmer for just a little bit to break those sugars down to make the sauce even better. So we'll see you guys in just a little bit. I'm gonna take this onto the smoker and we'll be back. All right, so we're about an hour in, hour and 15 minutes in. This is an opportune time to check your ribs. You need to spritz them with apple juice when they start looking dry. Remember, ribs are a bone-in meat and they're really thin. The only kind of protection they have is the little amount of fat that they have on them. So apple juice will help keep them juicy, will help keep them flavorful, if you will, before you actually throw them into your wrap. So make sure you spritz hour and a half in. If they need to go longer, that's what we're gonna do right now. All right, our ribs are looking good. The color on them looks absolutely phenomenal. And just remember, one on the smoker, you're not really going for temperature. You're going for color, you're going for to see if this rub sets, all right? The one way we can do that is our rub test, all right? You just take your pointer finger and you just rub on that rib, okay? If you see no smears on that rib, if you see none of the rub come off on your finger, that's when you know that the rub is set and you're good enough to wrap. That means it's going into a wrap, it's gonna be wrapped up, and that's not gonna wash off, so that feels good. Now we are building the wrap, all right? A wrap is very universal. I do this for competition. I do this at home. I've been doing this a long time. This wrap is just generally used to add flavor, all right? Flavor is what you want to go for, building layers of flavor. You saw all the layers that we built with the rub that we built and the sauce that we have still simmering over there on the smoker. Now we're adding one more element to it. And that's our regular wrap, our rib wrap. So rib wrap starts with a base of brown sugar. Spread that out. All right, now I have some squeezed butter here. You can use margarine, you can use a little bit of butter. I like using this because it's easy to get out and then you can spread it pretty easily without a problem. Like so. Okay, second to last ingredient, I have some honey. Like so. And the final ingredient is some of your apple juice. Now you need some apple juice just to break down some of this sugar. It's gonna naturally break down in this honey and stuff, but I just like to add a little bit of apple juice because there's a braising process that happens, that meat breaking down inside those fluids, adding more, getting tender, kind of loosening those fibers up. This apple juice is just gonna add another level, another layer of flavor. Just enough to kind of start breaking down that sugar. You don't need to pour like a gallon in there. That's not a good idea. Just remember, the more liquid you pour in here, the worse it's gonna be because it could end up washing off this, especially if it's taking a bath in liquid. We want that braising to happen. All right, remember, face down into the wrap, all that goodness kind of soaking face up. Now this is an opportunity to get rid of some of the ugly stuff on the back, like some of the little crusties on the back of these bones. All right, you want it to look pretty. All right, you don't have to do this, but you want it to look pretty. You just want to kind of take some of that stuff off. That might have happened on your smoker, some of that juice kind of coming out, some of the blood coming from the bone. Get rid of that stuff, not necessary inside the wrap. All right, you're gonna wrap this up super tight. Now be very, very careful, all right? You do not want to poke any holes in this. If you do, that's okay, all right? Some people double wrap their ribs. I only believe in single wrapping them because sometimes when you double wrap, you're creating another avenue to not have that heat hit your rib. So I suggest single wrapping, but if you actually poke a hole in it, you can double wrap it. That's totally fine. You want to seal it at the top and seal it right on the edges. So, important tip, all right? I'm a pro tip. All right, push all the air out of this wrap, all right? You want a braising process to happen. If there's air inside this, you're gonna have steam happening, and that steam is gonna wash off all that bark that you worked really hard for. All right, doesn't seem like we have any holes in our foil. We're gonna put this back on the smoker. We're gonna check on our sauce while we're over there. All right, so we're back. We have our ribs here. We're gonna stick these back on the smoker. While we're here, we're gonna stir our sauce, make sure it's not sticking, make sure it's starting to get kind of nice and simmered up and caramelized. So look at this sauce, it's starting to look really good. You see some of this bubbling up happening on the edges, so it's important to stir all that in, make sure it's well incorporated. If you remember the sauce when we first stuck it on here, it was really kind of soupy. This is starting to thicken up now. That apple cider vinegar is breaking down, as is that orange juice. You can see those bubbles starting to happen, which means the sauce is starting to be incorporated. All those sugars are starting to caramelize. It's starting to turn into a really, really nice sauce. All right, so I'm gonna let these ribs cook for a little bit. I'm gonna stir up this sauce, let this sit for just a little bit longer. We'll be back in maybe about 30, 40 minutes to check on both the sauce and the ribs. All right, so I came on over and I'm checking out my ribs. This is the thing about ribs, St. Louis specifically. You want them to get between 195 and 200 degrees. That's super important because that's done this temperature for them. They're gonna be probe tender, which means they're gonna temp like room temperature peanut butter or butter. At that point in time, we can pull them off and rest them. So after about an hour and 10 minutes, hour and 15 minutes, you can come back over and check them. That's what we're gonna do right now. Perfect. You see how easy it's temping, or how easy it's going through the foil. So it's temping like room temperature peanut butter. I feel like these ribs are done. Our sauce needs maybe just about 5 more minutes. So I'm gonna give these a little bit of time to rest. So I'll pull these off and let that sit for just a little bit. Okay. Put that sauce down, it's nice and hot. All right, nice and bubbly. Those sugars have melted down. All that honey that we have in there, that apple cider vinegar, that sizzling sauce, right? One of the best sauces at Sonnys. If you've never had it, try it. I feel like that's in a really good spot. And give it one final stir just to get all those, that extra sauce off the side right there. As so. Now, the final reveal of these ribs, all right? Because the last thing we have to do is stick some sauce on them. But this is kind of technically what they're gonna look like before we get to that point, so. And I always love this, right? During competitions, this is the best part of it because it really is the final product. Sauce doesn't really hide anything, especially this one, which is a little bit thinner. Oh boy, look at that. You see that? Look at all that cherry coloring. And it's really cool because in this wrap, that brown sugar, that honey, and that apple juice, that butter really does a great job of kind of accentuating or really kind of making this rib bring out those really nice, deep, dark cherry colors, which you want in a rib. That's what you want them to look like. Those bones are pulled back, so you know they're probably pretty tender. So we only have one final step left for it. Let's get rid of that. Now, we're just gonna add our sauce here. Now, some people say a thin layer sauce. I'm a heavy sauce guy. I wanna be able to taste my sauce, so I'm gonna sauce it pretty heavy. I'll start on the back. You have to sauce the back and you have to sauce the front. Just remember, when somebody bites into a rib, they're biting underside, their tongue is hitting the bottom side of that rib first, so the bottom is just as important as the top. And the great thing about sticking this sauce on the smoker is that it really thickened it up. Like I said, this sauce was great when we first mixed it up and we tasted it, but it's now even better because it's a thicker glaze, it's a thicker sauce. That honey and that brown sugar have really kind of caramelized and broken down some. All right, let's flip this over. Look how cherry that is. That's beautiful. I mean, it's gotta, there's one thing, and I know they're gonna taste good, right? But there's always something to say that it feels good when you create something and at least it looks the part. Kind of like working out. When you go to the gym, you wanna show off those muscles, right? Can you bench 405 pounds like me? Maybe not, but at least you look like you can. All right, let's finish that up. One more stroke here. All right, that look good. All right, we're gonna stick this back on the smoker for just 10 more minutes, all right? We want these sugars to kind of caramelize up a little bit more. We want this sauce to set on this rib before we cut into it, and we enjoy. All right. It's been 10 minutes. These ribs are officially, they're finished. This is the part I love about being a pitmaster, is that I still remember how to make some damn good looking ribs. They have this nice cherry look to them. I'm super impressed with that barbecue sauce because it turned into kind of like a glaze. So that feels really nice. So the only thing left to do is to cut into them and see how I did and how they taste. Now, remember what I said, I bunched them up on the smoker. You can see this meat kind of sticking up. In general cases, you're gonna flip these over so you can see the lines a little bit better, but I always took it as a challenge to try to cut them from the top side so I don't mess up my sauce. And speaking of sauce, this sauce right here, once you're done putting your ribs on the smoker, don't throw this sauce away, all right? This is still good. You can bottle it up and stick it in your refrigerator. You're gonna wanna use the leftover sauce to maybe touch up the size of your ribs. That's a super important thing. So don't throw it away, all right? Still solid gold. Man, these things are cutting like butter. that. So in case I want to show you something, I'm gonna pull this one out right here. Look at that. Look at that rib right there. You can even see the juice coming off of it. This is like the perfect rib, right? This is the perfect bite. Like if you're going to a competition and you're trying to learn how to compete and do all that kind of stuff, this is the bite, this is the rib that the judges want, right? It's super meaty, it's super thick, right? Kind of like me, but it's really, really good. So I'm gonna take a bite of this, and remember what I said, you know, even if you're judging, you can take some of this leftover sauce and just paint the sides of your rib. One side there, one side there. Just remember, a judge is gonna bite on it. Your guests are gonna bite on it. Your family members, their tongue is gonna touch this side and it's gonna touch the underneath. So make sure that these get some love too before you serve it. So, cheers. Look how easy that was. Here's the thing about a rib, okay? It is not supposed to fall off the bone. It's not supposed to happen. All right, you should see your teeth marks go easily through. You shouldn't be tugging away at it. Damn it, if I say so myself, that's the perfect rib. That is the perfect rib. It's great when you get the rib right. All right, it looks right and it tastes right. Listen, I get some of you may not be in the, hey, I don't like St. Louis ribs. I don't like, you know, the extra marbling on my food. Go back and check out our baby back rib video. Baby back ribs are a little bit more lean, but we cooked them almost the same way. They had a great glaze on them. They had a great rub on them, and you'll enjoy them just as much as I'm enjoying these St. Louis ribs right now. So that's it. So thank you guys for joining today. I had a great time cooking these, and I had a great time sharing them with you all. Make sure down in the comment box you tell us what you want to see, right? I did these ribs because everybody wanted to see them, and I just had a great time doing it. I had a great time sharing it with you guys. So comment on what you want to see moving forward. Like this, and also ring that notification bell. That's super important because whenever we do a video, you're gonna be the first one to see it. So I'm Sonnys BBQ head Pitmaster Shannon Snell. See you next time. Later.